Welcome to the Diary of a Lawyer. In today's explainer, we are unpacking what is, without a doubt, the defining tech tug-of-war of our generation. We're looking at the massive high-stakes collision between artificial intelligence regulation and breakneck technological innovation. The core question we're exploring today is one that's literally reshaping our global economy right in front of our eyes. Is regulation actually protecting society from unprecedented risks, or is it just suffocating the very innovation that drives us forward? All right, let's dive right into this. To really ground our deep dive today, I want you to think about this sharp observation from Nicolai Tangen, the CEO of Norway's massive sovereign wealth fund, from October 2024. He said, "In America, you have a lot of AI and no regulation. In Europe, you have no AI and a lot of regulation." This isn't just some passing comment. It's practically a real-time geographical autopsy of tech development right now. It perfectly sets the stage for the massive economic and global stakes we're dealing with. It shows us, plain and simple, that how a region chooses to govern AI directly dictates their technological capabilities on the world stage. And that brings us to Section 1. The tech tug-of-war and the startup burn rate. When heavy legislation like the EU AI Act across Europe is introduced, it isn't just a list of friendly suggestions. It demands strict risk categorization, incredibly complex data lineage tracking systems, and endless compliance audits before a single product ever launches to the public. And the consequence of all that? $2 million. Imagine you're a brand new startup. You've just secured your initial seed funding. Instead of taking that money and hiring the absolute best software engineers or buying massive compute power, you are forced to burn your first $2 million entirely on compliance lawyers. The timeline to actually launch your product just evaporates under the weight of this legal friction, which fundamentally alters the basic survival math for any new business trying to break into the AI space.
And this creates a very direct, very brutal consequence: capital flight. Because, let's be honest, capital is totally ruthless. Investment money and top-tier talent will always flow to wherever the friction is lowest. If the barrier to entry in a heavily regulated place causes a 2-year delay in launching, while a team in somewhere like Silicon Valley is moving at the absolute speed of compute, investors are absolutely not going to wait around. The money and the minds simply cross the Atlantic. It creates a structural, geographic competitive disadvantage that is incredibly hard to bounce back from.
Which brings us to Section 2, the Wild West fallout and systemic risk. Now, it's super easy to look at that capital flight and say, okay, well then zero regulation is the answer, right? But framing this purely as regulation suffocating innovation completely ignores the fallout of the alternative. A zero-regulation, Wild West approach to artificial intelligence isn't some bold business strategy. It is systemic negligence. We are handing over massive authority to autonomous systems making real high-stakes decisions, everything from determining loan approvals to handling medical triaging in hospitals. And the terrifying reality here is that in many of these deep neural networks, even the creators themselves cannot fully explain the internal logic of how the machine arrived at its decision. Stack that on top of baked-in algorithmic bias, catastrophic data privacy breaches, and deepfakes actively designed to manipulate elections, letting all of this run completely unchecked becomes an incredibly dangerous game. That leads us nicely into Section 3, the trust infrastructure paradox. Because of these genuinely terrifying systemic risks, we're witnessing a totally bizarre industry paradox right now. The loudest voices begging the government to step in and build guardrails are actually the pioneers and builders themselves, figures like Sam Altman and Elon Musk. Now, why on earth would tech disruptors want the government slowing them down? Well, the answer is trust infrastructure. Think about commercial aviation. The rigorous safety checks required before a flight takes off aren't there to be anti-innovation. No, they aren't the literal infrastructure for trust. Without standardized safety protocols, a single catastrophic mid-air disaster would completely destroy public confidence and bankrupt the whole aviation industry overnight. AI operates on the exact same economic principle. Trust is literally the only way this technology actually scales to the masses. Think of it like this. Driving 200 miles per hour requires highway guardrails. We are building this massive technological highway, and we absolutely want the innovation moving incredibly fast, but we desperately need boundaries in place so the cars don't just fly right off a cliff. Guardrails don't prevent you from driving fast. They ensure you actually survive the trip. All right, now we hit our synthesis in Section 4, the regulatory gauntlet. So we agree we need the highway, and we agree we need the guardrails. But here is the catch. The toll booth required to actually get onto that safe highway. Proving your AI is safe, passing endless audits, and building tracking systems creates a massive problem for market competition. Incumbent tech giants, they have endless capital and literal armies of compliance officers to absorb this legal friction. They actually benefit from it. But those grassroots innovators, the proverbial kids in a garage building the next major breakthrough, they are completely priced out of the market before they write their first line of public code. Heavy compliance inadvertently acts as a regulatory capture mechanism, basically handing a pure monopoly to massive corporations and totally killing grassroots innovation. So where exactly does that leave us? Let's move to Section 5, upgrading the law. The debate stubbornly remains fixated on whether we should regulate AI. But actually, scratch that. It is entirely the wrong question. The true challenge is how to architect smarter, agile rules that protect the public without inadvertently handing a monopoly to big tech. Right now, we are pitting a rigid 5-year legislative cycle against a technology that fundamentally transforms, upgrades, and disrupts itself every 6 months. It is an absolute mismatch. Matching slow-moving government timelines against technology that moves at the speed of compute just renders most laws obsolete by the time the ink even dries on the paper. Which leads us to a real crescendo paradigm shift, and a question I really want you to chew on today. As AI systems approach a threshold where they can actively write their own code, iterate, and evolve autonomously at lightning speed, can human regulatory agencies fundamentally ever keep up? We are using ancient paper-based concepts of law to try and govern self-replicating mathematics. We're relying on human reflexes to hit the brakes on a machine that operates in milliseconds. The entire architecture of human law might just need a total foundational upgrade. Now, before we wrap up, I do need to drop in a quick disclaimer. The information provided in this explainer is for educational and informational purposes only and does not constitute formal legal advice. But I will leave you with this final thought. As the AI highway gets faster and faster, are our current legal guardrails actually keeping us safe, or are they just causing a massive traffic jam? Keep questioning the frameworks around you. Thanks for joining this explainer, and we'll see you next time.